All right, we are live on Las Vegas Triathlon Club and recording. I'm John Mercer, president of the Las Vegas Triathlon Club. We got co-host Bob Gamble. Hey, Bob, how's it going?
It's going fine. Thank you, doctor. I'm doing fine. How are you?
Doing good. Thanks for setting up this member spotlight. This is gonna be a fun one. It's a little different format, but I'm really excited about hearing the stories tonight. So we've got Kelley Strubble and Monica Rosenberg as a team. And we'll find out why that is in just a bit. But it's so great to have you two on, both Midwest and Northeastern. Well, Kelley, you're not Northeastern, but you lived there for long enough that we can say that. So we're even though it's cold today, it's still not anything like our back east or Midwestern temperatures. Thanks so much for joining us. This is going to be a lot of fun to hear both of your stories in terms of getting involved in triathlon. But I'm going to turn it over to Bob to give us our official introduction.
Thank you, John. And again, we're really lucky to have Kelley and Monica on tonight. And I'm looking forward to this for two main reasons. One is because of the way they met. And I'm not going to get into that, but it's interesting. And it really plays into the second reason why it's good to have them on, is that they're friends who work out together, train together, and they got started in triathlon together. So that's two of the reasons why I'm excited to have them on tonight. And another reason, a third reason, is that they're both relatively new to triathlon. And it's always fun to talk to new folks because you get an appreciation of what it is that they're going through, and it brings you back to when you were doing this. And also it gives us something to ask you about. It's like, what are you worried about now? What are you working on right now? What are you learning right now? So with that in mind, before we get started, tell us how you met. So go ahead, Monica, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. And Kelley, I don't know who wants to start this as far as for how you got met or how you met and how you kind of got into triathlon at the same time.
Certainly, I'm glad to talk about how we met. Monica and I met at a triathlon camp in Kingman, Arizona, back in August of this year, and that was I would say happenstance. We happened to be two Vegas locals in the camp that comprised of other folks from Arizona, folks from California, even folks from Michigan. So, but anyways, it was great, at least for me, to meet somebody who was also interested in triathlon in Las Vegas, because I'm a relatively new transplant to Las Vegas myself, and up until that point had not yet really established a friend circle network, et cetera, especially training partners. So, but we both met at this camp, new to triathlon. This was a camp that was set up for beginners. And since that time, fortunately, we've had wonderful opportunities to train together and race together. And we have future plans to move onward and upward in triathlon. So, but it's been fantastic too, and to be a part of the LV Tri Club as well.
And you got your start early this summer. I mean, both of you just got started in triathlon. You went to this camp, and we'll get more into that camp too. Mm-hmm. But a little bit more of the introduction. Kelley, you've done two triathlons. You did the August Club Tri, and then you did Lake Havasu, right?
Correct. Both were.
And then Monica, you've done three. You did the August Tri, then you did Kokopelli, then Havasu. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
So this is great. You all just got started. And did you train together for any of these? Did you ride together?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, after we've met, we've kind of been together at least once or twice a week, training, I'll be like, what are you doing today? And she's like, well, I need to bike. And I'm like, let me come along with you. So it's been very great to have somebody to kind of do these things.
This is the main reason why I was excited to have you all on tonight, because it's great that the two of you met. You're both kind of new to the sport, and you discovered right away working out together is really a valuable thing. And it's just helped you both. And that's what another thing that I like about it is that's what the club's all about. Mm-hmm. The club is everybody supports everybody. So have you found that? Have you discovered other people in the club who you ride with and support you?
Oh, absolutely. I can say or speak for myself at least, but a number of times when we've come out to Boulder Beach for swims, which was kind of the pain point for new triathletes, we make it a point to meet up every weekend at Boulder Beach, mostly Saturday, Sunday mornings during the summer in particular. But we met other triathletes from the Las Vegas Triathlon Club just in doing so. And then also too at the races. Sorry, my cat just jumped in my lap. So I'm gonna try to get him settled so he leaves us alone. But no, it was an easy, at least for me, easy to integrate into the club, meet other people. John, I specifically remember meeting you at the club race in August, which we raced 3 weeks after we met at the camp.
Yeah.
It
That's
was
crazy.
short order. So I mean, that was we were about as new could get for that particular race. So but no, it's been wonderful to be a part of this club, as we're working our way, through the pain points of being a beginner.
And you're playing right into John's area. I know he's eager to ask about your first triathlon, about how that was. So John, what are your questions?
Yeah, no, this is great. I love this. Getting involved with a camp and what's neat is you meet other people who share the same interest, and that's great. But I am curious as to why you went to the camp. Why did each of you decide to do a triathlon to begin with? What was that first interest?
Do you want to start?
I'll start. I just was looking for the next challenge. Kind of run for a very long time and had done races and enjoyed it, but wanted something more for myself. And I knew how to ride a bike, so, and I just thought that being out here, I've been here about 6 years, and I feel like this is just a perfect environment to be able to swim more year round. And I was like, let's do this, let's try it. And I really just said I was going to push myself way outside of my box and start. And I started with going to this camp, and it's kind of all just waterfalled from there.
Oh, that's awesome. So your background is running then?
Yes.
Oh,
Definitely.
that's good. And what distances did you have you run?
I like the shorter ones. So I've done a half marathon. That's my longest one. I really have no ambition to do a marathon. But from there, I just think that, we'll see.
Oh, I can see the friend influence already. That's good.
Yes, exactly.
I know you're going to be leapfrogging and pulling each other along. I can see that. While you're on the topic of just getting started, I mean, you mentioned going down to Boulder Beach a lot. I mean, that's hardcore. I mean, what'd you think of the reason they call it Boulder Beach as you were walking down to it?
Oh goodness, my feet can tell you the story. This getting in and out of the water, that's the tough part. But actually swimming, well, that I don't know, getting in and out of the water makes the swim that much easier, I guess I would say. But but it does help allay a lot of the anxiety, with the swim, especially if the conditions aren't perfect or optimal. And you're, by the way, I can't recall when it was, but y'all did a Friday evening Zoom call about swim anxiety, and boy, it hit every single, like I said, pain point, every single issue that I've ever had with swimming, and it really actually helped propel us to move forward because we try to reiterate those concepts each time we get out there and meet up.
Glad to hear it.
As much as we can now while the weather still allows, so much less so recently anyways.
Well, and what's important to know is that you're not alone. Mm-hmm. And everyone is working towards that. So that's great to hear. So Kelley, let's hear your story. Why did you decide to get into triathlon? What was the story behind that?
Oh, sure. Well, honestly, triathlon was something that I've been interested in for a number of years, even as far back as college, I would say. But unfortunately, as a broke college student, I could really only afford to run because running is free and you can buy a decent running shoes for not much money. But anyhow, but when I moved to Vegas recently, we relocated for my husband's job. I had stumbled upon, this triathlon camp that, was advertised through social media, and really felt at the time, I really need to make the jump. I'm ready. I'm able to do it. I have the time, I have the ability. So that's when I signed up for the camp. I was hoping to meet other like-minded individuals that were also a beginner like me. When I say beginner, I'm still learning how to, switch gears on a bike, change a tire on a bike. I could
all the things that you don't realize you don't know.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm very much a beginner in that respect. I, was a runner myself as well. Not as well, Monica won't play this up at all, but she's definitely the queen of running. I'm much less so. I'd be her protege at best. So have a running background for sure, but integrating bike, especially the swim, that's been an adventure. It's been wonderful too. Just the challenge of taking on new sports, new disciplines, and appreciating the discipline behind them as well, especially putting them all together. That challenge.
Before you go any further on that, I'm just curious about the triathlon camp.
Mm-hmm.
Where was it and who put it on? I'm just, can you give me a little bit of detail about that?
Oh, certainly. So it was based in Kingman, Arizona. It was put on by She Strong Inc. I believe it was advertised on the LB Tri Club page a number of months before the camp actually took place. So, but it's a not-for-profit aimed towards, providing funding support for women who are cancer survivors that want to either engage in triathlon or continue triathlon, beginners, et cetera. And so that's the organization that put on the camp. And it was, as I understood, the first of its kind. I think it was the first time they put on a beginners camp, and they do have plans to put on more camps of the same nature in 2022 and beyond. But it was I think a 4-day weekend, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Comprised of a number of workshops, going anywhere from, basic bike maintenance to, transitioning through a triathlon. What do you need to put in your gear bag? How to, nutrition, how to prepare for runs.
We have the guest speaker from Moxie Life.
That's right. Yeah. There were a number of
And
guests.
say that again, Monica, please.
There was a guest speaker from Moxie Life at the camp, and there was the one girl, I forget her name, but from TriDot, the training platform, came and did like a little mini seminar.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So
That is so cool.
And they actually, at the very end of the camp on the final day, they put us through a mini triathlon where we did was it like a 200-meter swim in the outdoor pool, then jumped on the bike for, an 8-mile bike ride, and then did a 1-mile run, just to, again, reiterate the concepts. And, the transition was the key focus there, trying to optimize and spend less time in transition, more time, on the actual swim, bike, and run.
Sounds like a very smart program.
It was a fantastic experience, and I think made, our first triathlon just 3 weeks later, that much easier to do. Not that it was easy, but, it was much less anxiety provoking. We showed up, we were more prepared than, we would have ever been had we not done the camp. And obviously too, the key focus for us, and something that another Tri Club member had mentioned to us before the race itself, was that, really, when you're showing up here, you're racing with friends. That's what it is today. Don't be nervous. Don't be anxious. You're not here to compete. You're here to race with friends. And that really just cemented the perspective for us. And, we still, think about that. We were just discussing this prior to the call, something that we think about all the time, anytime we do a race. And for me, my second race, that was key. Having friends, racing with friends, it makes everything easier.
And that's the main purpose of the club. So that you're out there racing with people who support you, and that's what John emphasizes. So you give him a pat on the back for that.
Yes,
everyone does. So we have a really great special endurance community here. It is neat, and so and what's great to hear is that sometimes we overlook that there's a lot of moving parts to doing a triathlon, and this is great to hear that you took the time to learn those moving parts going into your first race. So now I want to hear about that first race. So
yes,
let's so talk us through the first race that you did. This would be the Tri Club race, right?
Yes, for both of them.
You want to go first?
All right. So down on the start, what was starting? And we started as a group. What was that like?
Do you want to go first?
Terrifying.
It was a little anxiety provoking, but also a little calming at the same time. I remember about 30 seconds to a minute before the race actually started, that calm set in, because we,
That was just me peeing in the water.
Oh, okay,
Sorry.
well, that too, that was the warmth that I felt. Okay.
That was the warmth. Sorry.
You and everybody else, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, but I mean, just the atmosphere with, everybody else that was participating in the race. Again, it felt very like a welcoming scenario. I mean, I distinctly remember people just chatting amongst each other, talking about the night that they had before. I think somebody went to like a Guns N' Roses concert.
Yeah, and
Oh.
hadn't went to bed at all.
And then we're, showing up that morning, 5 a.m. or I can't remember what it was. It was early because it was a summer race. But again, just the ambiance of the race, the fact that we could tell it was a close knit group. And John, I think I met your wife, Laura, right before the race as well. And she was very focused on making sure that, we were channeled in, the right starting position, that we knew what was going on. And so that was like I said, there was some anxiety, but that really lessened it. And I'm pretty sure I'll never experience that at another race again.
Well, but it's neat to try to bottle that up and take it to another race. That's what's sort of fun, is that we can make these races fun, and you can race them as fast as you want, but at the same time, take that friendly atmosphere to it. All right, so the gun goes off, or the horn, or I think I just yelled go.
I'm sure you did, yes.
Yeah. What was it like in getting the swimming going? Did you get comfortable right away? Was it once you got moving, it was fine, or how'd the swim go?
Well, for me,
I will say.
Yeah, go for it.
I will say that first buoy took forever.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's how it is in all races, but the first buoy took forever. After that, I think I kind of settled in, and I got to the second one. I'm like, oh, praise baby Jesus, I'm here. And I was like, okay, there's the shore. I just have to get to shore. We're totally good now. So I just talked my way through the whole thing.
Oh, good for you. And that first buoy, when you see it out there, it's right there. It's not that far, but that's further than you realize.
Yeah.
So you were right on. How about you?
We actually swam. We anticipated what the course would look like, especially the swim portion, because again, as a new athlete, that was, the discipline that we were most anxious about. We'd even swam it, I think, more than once, a couple times, and it was still a different experience actually on race day.
Yeah.
But because you had the crowd of the other swimmers that you were trying to figure out what your pace was. But I'm like Monica. I think getting to that first buoy was probably the height of the challenge, and after that, it was just a matter of finishing up, just putting one arm in front of the other.
Well, that's good for people to hear, is because that first 100 to 200 meters or yards, that's really the most important part, to just try to get into a nice swimming groove. And so that's really, really good to hear. Okay, so now you're coming out of the swim, you've survived that part, and you get out and you have that long transition to the bike. Talk about transitioning, and you've been through the camp at this point, so you had some practice on that.
I kind of walked to transition. Her and I walked together.
Yeah, I remember that.
And I got there and I'm like, oh crap, there's only like 3 bikes left. And it was our bikes. I was like, well, okay, we're just going to keep going.
That made transition much easier because it was easy to identify our bikes. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Very different from the second race that I did, at least. So where there were many more bikes.
And also you have to realize that first time coming out of the water is a major victory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And getting from the water to the bike too, for me, was a victory as well, because that's a bit of a difference going from, horizontal to vertical, and then trying to navigate your way, to a bike. And
on that rocky beach. So, all right. So now you take off on the bike, and our bike course is notorious for that first climb, which is not easy for anybody. So how did that go, and how'd the rest of the bike go?
That was fun.
Yeah,
I'm still feeling it in my quads anyway.
Yeah, right.
So my quads don't forget.
The bike, I don't like bike. It's my least favorite part of the whole thing.
Oh.
But I think I kind of anticipated what it was going to be. I'd driven the course. So I kind of knew what it was, but once I turned around, I was like, oh, pray baby Jesus again. I made it. I'm going to go back.
And it's kind of downhill the whole way back to the somewhat relative. Yeah.
Yeah,
thankfully.
I felt fairly confident I could make it back. So
Mhm.
that was good.
Good for you.
Yeah. And I think for me, the challenge on the ride was actually riding on the road, sharing the road with traffic. Because at that point I had well, again, when we trained at Boulder Beach, we'd swim and then we'd bike on the bike path, River Mountain Loop.
Right.
But, we're still a little intimidated by riding on the road. So in this case, I think for this race, it was probably my second time at least riding on the road. So that was
Wow.
that was definitely an experience because, as you mentioned, there were vehicles that were coasting through at 45, 55 miles an hour that you had to share the road with. And just again, keep the mindset of, don't be intimidated, don't be afraid, stay going straight. So that's but other than that, and that's kind of secondary, or no, that was primary to the hills. The hills were definitely a challenge, but it was, a matter of navigating the traffic and just, adapting to that.
And that's a smart caution to have. I mean, yeah, it can be intimidating, but you're smart to be somewhat cautious of other cars on the road and focus on not, moving around and staying to the right. No, that's good. It's a healthy, I don't want to call it a fear, but it's a healthy caution to have.
Yeah, no, definitely good to hear this. And yeah, I agree, be aware. And, the tough thing of that bike course is the big boats that come by, on trailers, obviously, and that can get a little hairy. So no, that's good to hear. Well, not good to hear, but something that we don't talk enough about. We probably need to talk more about. All right.
And
So
it's really good. It's really good that you did your first race with a very hilly course, because after this, everything's nice. Everything's flat. Most courses. Okay. There are some steep, climbs and stuff out there, but you got indoctrinated into not an easy course on the bike.
Yeah.
I agree.
John?
All right. So now on that bike course, which is pretty brutal, you come down that final hill and you're into T2. Give us the rundown on how T2 went.
Well, I would say for me, well, T2 was pretty quick because I haven't quite yet graduated into the clips. So I was just riding flat with a cage. And so I, threw off my helmet, threw on, my visor, dumped the bike and took off for the run. Not quickly. My run was pretty slow because I was, pretty gassed by that point. So, but it was the heat had set in, I remember, even though we were, 8 a.m. And again, taking it from the perspective of we were, heading up the rear of athletes. I think, Monica and I were probably in like the last 10 of the athletes that came through, which is fine. We only wanted to finish. That was the goal.
And you were supposed to be. Yeah. If you finish on the podium in your first race, everybody kind of looks at you and goes,
yeah, I know. Not a legitimate beginner athlete at all. No.
Or you did. Yes, that was quite.
Well, and what I really like to hear, Kelley, is you're biking in equipment that you're comfortable with, and you don't. This is good for triathletes to hear. Is you don't always need to get into some of the different equipment. Use what you're comfortable with, and that's good, and that's a good way to get started.
And I was biking on a bike that was 10 years old plus at the time that I'd only really casually rode on. So yeah, using what you have at the time, I think is, well, that again, it helps to, to work with equipment that you do have. And then, over time, work your way up to
graduate.
Yeah, we've got the holiday season's coming up. Okay.
That's right. I know.
So what did your legs feel like when you started running for the first time off the bike?
Oh, goodness.
Jelly.
Yeah, I'll say it like that. My quads still remember. So yeah, felt like slow motion. I think that at least for me it was. I know Monica took off. I was trying to chase her as I always do. I mean, I don't think I've ever had a situation where you're chasing me on a run. But anyways, it helped to have a goal in front of me to try to keep up with a person ahead of you that you knew.
There you go.
At a pace that you could probably accomplish. So, but yeah, jelly legs for sure.
Now, Monica, with your running background, was that something that sort of paid off at that point?
Mentally, yes, for
Mhm.
sure. Because I knew at that point I could finish it. Like there was no problem just pounding out a 3-mile run. But there is definitely a very different feel from coming off the bike into a run that is not natural. And you kind of have to just work your way through that, like kind of pain, weird suffering, and just be like, okay, well, here we go.
It's like you have to accept the situation.
Yeah.
I don't think that the pain's ever not going to be there. Tell me if I'm wrong. I don't know.
No, this is a great thing that you're applying what you've learned in running in this case to triathlon, and it does carry over. And Kelley, I'm sorry I didn't get your sport background. What is your sport background that you lean on?
Oh goodness. Well, a little bit of everything. I grew up in a small town, and if you're an athlete in a small town, you have to dabble in a little bit of everything because there's really nobody else to fill the team roster.
No.
So, but I was, a runner for, a number of years, not collegiate anyways, but did do one marathon when I was young and stupid. Barely crossed the finish line. But no, I had done a couple of half marathons in my late 20s. This is about 5 years preceding my entry into triathlon anyway. So do have a little bit of a background, not at Monica's level for sure. So, but I'm hopefully.
But it's great to hear that because you're taking your sport background and still applying it to triathlon now. All right, so then you hit the finish and felt pretty good.
Very good.
I did,
Yes.
yeah. Accomplished.
Very much so. Ready. Well, there was a beer waiting for us at the end of the race. So, we knew that was waiting for us. So
yeah, there was that.
Hopefully you took a second to pat yourself on the back for finishing that first triathlon.
Oh,
Did
yeah.
it feel good?
It did.
Yes.
It did. So it was an experience I wanted to repeat for sure. So I guess that's one question every new triathlete asks themselves is, after that first race, do I really want to continue doing this? And, the answer for me was definitely yes. I knew at least I wanted to do another sprint. Wasn't sure about, building beyond that. But, since then, Monica and I have made commitments to build beyond that.
So
But you knew right away you were going to go out and do another one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, so no, you jumped. Yeah, that was the exact question I was going to ask. Is so we're on the same wavelength, and so you were already signed up for another event. So now I'm interested in what did you learn in your first event that you applied in the next one?
You want to go first?
No.
No? Oh, okay. I can think of something. So, well, for me, it was, it was the swim transition to the bike. And again, it was more of just adapting to what's what I'm looking for here, that challenge, sometimes that difficult sensation of moving from the swim position, running to transition, then getting on a bike, and then trying to remain cognizant of where is my bike? Okay, what's the sequence that I have to go through to get from, out of my wetsuit into my bike equipment. And so that was very valuable for me to take from that first race to my second race. Made a huge difference.
That's
Were
what
you a little bit disoriented when you stood up after swimming and a little bit balance problem?
That's an issue for me every time. I don't know about you, but it's something
You're not alone.
Yeah, I've just learned to accept it. This is really what it comes down to.
Monica, what lessons did you learn coming out of this first one?
I think it was just confidence in myself, which
Good.
I think is a little kind of simplistic, but I think for a lot of times, sometimes I doubt myself that it can be done. And the first one was just kind of figuring out that it can be done and
Yeah, I did.
yeah, building from there.
Awesome.
I love it. All right, so now we're coming to the end of the season now. So what are you looking forward to in the next year? What's 2022 look like?
We actually, I think, was it last week? I think last week we actually had dinner together and we put it all on the line, what races we would like to do, what our training plan is going to look like. We have big plans. Well, for us.
Awesome.
So
Wonderful.
Tell them about it.
no, you tell them.
Oh, you want me to tell them about it? Okay.
I'm not committing to anything quite yet.
We're planning to do our first 70.3 in Oregon in July.
Awesome.
Yeah, between then, we have a couple of Olympic distance races. Yeah,
a couple sprints. And
Are you going to do the Olympic at Rage?
Oh,
Is that one thing you're getting ready for?
No, we're going to do Cactus Man.
Cactus Man is on the list, and oh goodness, It's escaping me the other race that I'm signed up for that you're
Hollow.
not. San Hollow. Yeah.
Yep, yep, and we'll put out our race dates too. So
Yeah, and then
we'll take a
yours.
sprint there. Yeah. Wow, that is awesome. So
That is.
70.3 up in Oregon, which is that was a popular race with our locals last year. We had a whole bunch of people go out there.
Oh,
It'll
well,
be
hopefully a big
exciting.
crowd again this year.
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm already hearing a lot of people headed up there. Well, and is there a special draw to Oregon, or was it just the right time of year?
I would say about the right time of year
Okay.
for us. And well, we also understood too that, well, from our perspective, at least what we've read about the race is that it's a course that's more conducive to a beginner. So swimming with a current in a river,
I was gonna say,
relatively flat.
The swim
cycle
had
run.
it for me.
Yeah, yeah.
For
So,
sure.
I mean, that's a building block to more challenging races. So we figured, okay, well, if we can do Oregon,
Yeah.
you know, that's a good start.
I love it. I love it.
Wonderful.
Mhm.
That's great. Well, this is, believe it or not, we said we'd keep it for 30
We've
minutes.
blown through after 30 minutes.
No
Yeah.
kidding. Yeah.
So this is so much fun talking with both of you. I think, it's great to see the friendship build around triathlon. And, I always say triathlon is an individual sport, but we never do it alone. And you really embody that. And so it's really great to hear you get started in triathlon and to build this friendship and to see where the triathlon careers go. So thank you very much for sharing this with us tonight.
Thank you for the
Absolutely.
opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for having us, and thank you for building the club the
club.
way you have. That's truly an asset, and I think we'll keep a lot of people going.
Well, thanks. And we've got a lot of people to thank to make it work. And really your participation makes the club work. And so it really is important to have you involved with the club. So thank you.
Mhm.
Oh, Bob, you're muted.
You can see my lips moving, huh? It was wonderful having you both on. Thanks so much.
Thank
And like
you.
John said, it's like you're the cornerstone of the club. So, as far as having the participation and the support that you give to everyone else. So thank you for all that.
Thank you.
All right. It looks like your cat's gone, but hopefully,
He wandered off. He settled.
okay. Awesome. Well, thanks so much.
Y'all have a good night.
All right. Bye.
Bye, y'all.